Mac is here. He says hello. Welcome to video 4. If you start to hear him snore, sorry, not sorry. All right, communication, difficult conversations. We're going to talk about patients and families. Oh, there's Tosh. Patients and families, and also colleagues. Okay, so patients and families, lots of various difficult conversations. You may be in one that's so as serious enough as you're telling someone their loved one passed because the physician's not there, and you kind of need to answer that question, and they ask it, and you kind of have to answer it. Or maybe they got bad news that they might be passing, not doing well, cancer's back, maybe something went wrong. You might find yourself in those situations. So let's talk about different things you can do. So if you know you're going into one of these difficult conversations, I've had that before where I know we're going to drop a little bit of a bomb on the patient and the family. So bring in support if needed. So I've had times where it's like, oh, I see that the wife is walking in. First thing she's going to ask me is what the CT scan looks like. And I can't answer that. Oh, wait, what do you know? The physician's here. I'm going to wait just a little bit longer. And I'm going to walk in with the physician so that they can answer that question. And I can hear them answer it and hear the information they provide. And that way that throughout the day, as they ask me more questions when the physician's not here, I know what's been told to them. And I can elaborate, I can reinforce, and those kinds of things. Bring in support if needed, okay? And if it's a challenging situation, like maybe they're being inappropriate, maybe they're being loud and inconsiderate, bring in another nurse. Say, hey, what's up? It's Katie. Got my colleague nurse here. We just want to chat with you about a couple things. Is that okay? Bringing in another person is really helpful. Yeah, so bring in support if needed. You don't always need it, but that might be helpful. Anticipate questions and needs. So if you're dropping a big bomb on the family, some bad news, some whatever, anticipate what they might ask. So like one thing with neuro would be like, are they going to talk again? Are they going to walk again? Are they going to this? I know they're going to ask those questions, and I don't have a very good response because I don't know. I have no idea. I can make a guess, and even then, that's a guess. So anticipating questions is really helpful, so you can kind of go through those answers in your mind, because a lot of times they ask pretty similar questions. Now, a big one is do not take emotional responses personally, okay? I have been yelled at. I have been kind of talked pretty rudely to when patients and families are getting bad news. I try to kind of step outside of that for a second because, that's tough, and some people like to shoot the messenger, or maybe that's their way of coping or having some semblance of control. It's not okay to talk to people like that, but at the same time, I kind of get it. Why he was doing this 2 days ago? Why didn't anyone notice? Like, what were you doing? Why are you not doing this? And why shouldn't we be doing this? Why didn't this doctor do this? Those kinds of questions and with emotion behind them. But you are the nurse. You are the confident, calm presence. And so if you respond back to emotion with like this like angry emotion back, it makes the situation worse. It makes things get out of control, and then you have to bring in someone else. But if you can really have control over your soul, that's what I kind of call it, possess your soul, have control of the situation, and not take those emotional responses personally, that can facilitate it. They need that calm presence more than anything at that point. So it helps to have perspective of the situation by thinking about it like that. Next, to be kind, direct, and empathetic and honest. Don't beat around the bush. Rip the Band-Aid. But be in a kind and graceful way, especially if you're like, hey, you can't act like this. Hey, I'm your nurse. I'm here to take care of you, but don't talk to me like that. I'm being direct. I'm being kind, and I get whatever's going on with you, and I'm trying to be empathetic, but I'm being honest. You're not going to talk to me like that. Um, and sometimes, you've got like the neuro ICU patient who's got this major brain injury. We don't know what their life is going to look like in 5 years or 2 months or 3 days. I can't tell you. I can't. I want to provide this definitive answer to you, but I cannot. And a lot of people just want to know what to expect. We crave predictability. We crave routine and knowing what's going to happen. And when someone has this disease process or whatever happened, that's taken out. And now these people don't know what to think, what to expect, and it's terrifying. And so they just search for that and ask it in very different ways. So just, understand that craving, I guess. One of the big things that was much more challenging than I had ever thought it would be was not providing false hope out of a need to provide positivity. Okay. So I'm a positive person. It's challenging for me, or it was challenging for me to be in these sad conversations because I always wanted to provide the upside. Well, at least this. Well, hey, look at this. And I had to really try to not say that stuff. It's really important not to. When someone is going through tragedy, going through something terrible, they don't want to hear at least. They don't want to hear that. You just need to feel with them, be with them in that challenging spot, but don't, just because you feel like you need to say something positive, don't manufacture that. And I have provided false hope before in the past, and I look back at it so disappointed in myself because I just felt like I had to do that, and that was a personal need of mine to provide hope to this person, to this family. And it was just after the physician had laid this groundwork to say, the patient, this is it, and I screwed that up. So don't provide false hope out of a personal need to provide positivity. And finally, validate feelings, reflective listening. Those never go away. A lot of people, sometimes they just need to know that what they're going through is really hard. And you need to, in doing that, kind of gives them permission to feel these challenging and awful feelings in a safe space with the nurse. You don't need to, you might feel like you need to be brave for your loved one or the patient or whatever, but you don't have to be brave for me. You can cry, you can ugly cry, you can ask me all those crazy questions that pop into your mind that are going to eat at you. You could, I just want you to know that this is a tough situation, and I'm sorry you're going through that. That can speak so loudly. It's so simple, but it's so comforting to people. And then reflective listening. If someone's saying something really rude or whatever, reflect that back, reword it, and reflect it back and say, so what you're saying is this? Is that right? Is that right? And then sometimes people just need to hear their expectations rephrased to realize how maybe unrealistic or inappropriate they are. So that's patients and families. Also, that can apply to colleagues, but there's a couple things, and I'm going to kind of rush through them real quick because I want to, be respectful of your time. Colleagues, there's 3 things that I want to talk about with them. Reflective listening, using a business-like tone, and educating, okay? So again, you're going to hear me say reflective listening a lot. It's a powerful tool, and it shows you're listening, rephrases the conversation, and make sure you're on the same page. So if you're asking a CNA to go do something and they're not going to do it, or they say no, so what I hear you saying is that this patient needs to go to the bathroom. You're the only one available to do it, and you're not going to do it. Is that correct? So, hey, what I hear you saying is this. Is that right? Approaching challenging conversations in a business-like tone, hey, this isn't personal. This is kind of the expectation. You also want to provide kind of caring if someone's going through something rough and they're responding to this thing in their life by not being a great person to be around at work. You want to be able to provide support, but also if you're delegating or if you're communicating with someone and they're just not being helpful or whatever, hey, business-like tone. Don't frame things as a favor, to the CNA you're delegating to. Hey, can you do this for me? Versus, hey, Mr. Smith needs to go to the bathroom. Can you take care of that? You know what I mean? One makes it sound like, oh, you only have to do it because you like me. It's no, this is work. It's a job you signed up for. I would take him, but I've got to do this, or, you know, so that's important to do reflective listening and use a business-like tone. But don't miss those opportunities to be empathetic when people really are having a hard time and it's manifesting in not great attitude. And finally, if you notice someone's doing something wrong or incorrectly, it truly, most of the time, might be out of them not knowing better. So you can use that as a, hey, I saw you doing this, but let me just show you this is the way to do it. I don't want you to get, like, you know, caught in a chart audit and screwed. Like, just want to show you this. Because when you chart like this, it makes it look like this. You know, one time I had someone charting that a patient that was comatose was doing active range of motion, and they were, you know, copying and pasting and stuff. And it's like, well, just so you know, you can't do that because you can't copy and paste other people's work, but it also just isn't accurate. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't, like, so I just, because you'll get tripped up on a chart audit and could get written up for this, so I just want to make sure you know, and then it's like a, hey, I'm looking out for you, but, you know, I really want to make sure this is done correctly kind of thing. So reflective listening, a business-like tone, and use it kind of like an educate, not in a condescending way, but in a peer-to-peer, even if they're technically, you know, maybe they're a CNA, that's still your peer. Peer-to-peer, hey, I'm looking out for you. This is the way you got to do it, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. You know what I mean? So I think if you frame it like that, it's much more helpful. And then if someone corrects you, model that, receive it well. Like, thank you for looking out for me. I appreciate that. Don't, like, get frustrated and down when someone corrects you. Or educates you, because you want to set that precedence in your unit where, hey, you know what? It's okay for us to call each other out, because our egos aren't what matters. Patient care and doing this right is what matters. So if you can start to set that precedence where it's okay to correct each other and, like, do that in a because the patient is what matters way, that's a safe unit culture, and that's what it should be. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The last one I'm going to chat about is communicating with your loved ones, yours. So starting shift life is a big thing, a new challenge. So we'll talk about some easy ways and small things, different changes you can make that can make a big difference. So thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you with the last video.